This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen. With Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
Been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you on this Thursday morning. I want to say thank you to Luke Doty for being today's guest on the Garnet Trust Hour. Good conversation that Wes had with him. I'm like you. I'm not sure what to classify him as when it comes to his technical. Like, I know he's a senior in school, but he still has the COVID year, so I guess that technically makes him like a redshirt junior, I think.
Officially a redshirt junior is how I would say it.
Okay.
Technically a redshirt sophomore.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's not confusing at all.
So the NCAA and the SEC, not to get too deep in the weeds on this, they basically tell the schools, classify it as if the person is not using the COVID year.
So you're just basically subtracting a year.
Right.
So you refer to them as if they're not.
Correct.
So they just basically have 2 senior years then, essentially.
Right. So it's more like, all right, you're a redshirt junior right now, officially.
Okay.
Then next year, you're a redshirt senior, officially. Then you make the decision, am I using my extra year or not?
Okay.
And then you become a 6th year if you took a red shirt, or a 5th year if you didn't take a red shirt.
I see.
So you kind of, when you officially do the bios and the game day guides and the media guides and all that stuff, you put them as if the whole extra COVID thing did not count, did not matter. It's not until it's actually needed that it becomes a part of the official tally. But because Luke was able to redshirt last year, he has this year and 2 more.
Got it.
Even though this is his 4th camp. Because he came in early, too. He's a spring guy.
He's going to be one of those guys in a few years that are going to be like, man, remember Luke Doty hanging around for 10 years?
Absolutely. He's already that. He's been here a long time already. And Dowell Loggains had some – man, Dowell
was on one yesterday.
He was on one yesterday. I was telling Wes yesterday, he got philosophical a lot yesterday. Like, people are still wanting to know how many dig routes Dowell's going to call in a game, right? He's not giving that away. We know that. But he did get philosophical on the offense. And, man, he went on for a while about Doty. He seems to be a big Luke Doty fan.
In fact, we'll let you hear exactly what he had to say about Luke Doty yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of my favorite players on this team. He's one of my favorite players I've ever coached because of what he values and the teammate he is. And, I say this other day we do our freshman skit, and I tell everyone that asks the right questions, like, hey, you talk about leadership and you talk about guys that have it, whatever it is, like, have it. We're doing our freshman skit the other day, and this is the freshman, or all newcomers. Hey, you got to come up and do something, tell a joke, sing a song, dance, whatever it is. And before it starts, like, Luke Doty's the one that stands up and goes, "Hey guys, don't throw they wad up newspaper napkins or whatever. Like, don't start all that stuff. Like, let them finish the act, then boo them. Like, don't start booing right off the start. But it's like Luke Doty's the one who spoke up and told everyone to act right. Like, hey, guys, act right. Treat these guys the right way. And that's who Luke is to me. That's why I have such respect for Luke. He's a valuable football player that can help us in other rooms than just quarterback. So he's done that in the past. I think in the bowl game he played on special teams. He's played on pump pressure and kickoff returns and done some other things that way. And, it would be foolish for us to have a player like that myself and Coach Beamer believe in standing next to us on the sideline. So, is he a guy that could have a role in different areas? Absolutely.
Sounds like Luke Doty's got the makings of a future football coach himself.
Yeah, if he wants to be, Luke's one of those guys who he'll be successful whatever he decides to do, I think, which you always want those guys in leadership positions around your football team. And Luke, as always, gave us some good stuff. Obviously, Dow, has been here, maybe half of a year, a little over that now, and very quickly, I'm sure, caught on to just what type of teammate and person Luke Doty is, and great athlete as well. He's someone that I think all these newcomers can kind of lean on, and he's really good about imparting wisdom on them as well. And I thought it was interesting. A couple of things caught my attention from what Luke had to say. One being that the turnovers in practice, that count has been cut down. Luke said, in his opinion, he believed it was more than half, which I think kind of matches some things we've heard, and that kind of adds up to Beamer talked about that, I guess, maybe a week ago or so, as far as what that number was at that time. And so that caught my attention. Also, did y'all catch Luke saying that he felt like when they kind of started camp that they hit the ground running much further along on offense than they have been in past years? And that caught my attention because it wasn't me asking, hey, did y'all hit the ground running? And of course, every player in America is like, oh yeah, we hit the ground running. It wasn't me saying, hey, how does the offense look right now? Do you feel like it was efficient? Oh yeah, of course, it's efficient. He kind of brought that up and said, we were ahead of where we have been at the beginning of camp, at the beginning of practice, and he sort of credited it to some of the stuff they did in player run practices. I'm sure some of that is having some veteran quarterbacks who are, obviously Luke and Spencer, who have been around. But I didn't necessarily take it. I didn't take it as any type of shot at the previous offense, but I did take it as, okay, they kind of had a feel for what they wanted to be offensively, which I don't think we quite know that yet, but I think they have a pretty good idea of where their bread is buttered within this scheme.
Well, I do think there's another little side piece to that, Wes, in that we have heard more than one instance of the players kind of, hey, we've really been in our playbook this offseason. And to that, you kind of maybe raise your eyebrow a little bit. And again, that doesn't mean they didn't study their playbook last year or anything like that. But we've had players tell us directly things like that when we've had them on the Garnet Trust Hour. And I can't remember which one, literally just came out and said it. Hey, like the big difference is the way that we've been studying, the way that we've been preparing. And so I do think there's something to the notion, though. Again, nobody's going to come up here publicly, bash the staff or anything like that. These players aren't. But this is a new offense, and I think there was some excitement, Wes, about the newness of it and what it was going to be all about. We've heard Spencer Rattler talk many times about how he just loves the offense. And I think once the players started to see more of that, I think there's kind of an intrinsic, like an extra motivation almost, an enjoyment of the offense. And I think that helps you.
Well, we know it's a little bit more tailor-made to the players specifically. I know it's kind of built around Spencer and what he's able to do, but it's kind of a system where Loggains looked at the talent that he had here and said, okay, what can I make based on these guys?
Yeah, and I think, let's be honest, a lot of coaches say that. And pretty much every coach is going to mix in that idea of, we're going to do what our players do best. And yeah, of course, that's in theory what you want to do. I think there's a big difference between saying that and then being able to actually implement it. And again, we're still in talking season. I think I still don't know the exact definition or dynamics of when talking season begins and ends. But I'm going to say we're in talking season until I watch a kickoff that involves a Garnet jersey on a field with fans in the stands. So we're in talking season. I've seen multiple new offenses, new defenses, new schemes, new coaches, new everything over the years at South Carolina. So we've all learned. Let's wait and see until we see it on the field. But I haven't had – you ever get those little red flags, those little sirens in your head that you start to say, ooh, I don't know if that's going to work. I haven't had those red flags going off in my head about South Carolina's plan on offense. So I think there are good signs here. But then we all, media, fans, shoot, maybe players too, I don't know. We all want to see what happens on the field against a real opponent not wearing a garnet or black jersey.
With the benefit of hindsight, did you have those red flags previously? Because you remember, it was similar in a way. It's way different. Let me start there. It was similar in a way when Marcus Satterfield got to South Carolina. Everybody's trying to figure out what kind of offense they're going to run. Mm-hmm. You still have that. But I feel like what we've heard, what we've observed is different. But was that a red flag initially?
Well, so my biggest red flag before, and it's, again, the red flags don't always play out that way. Sometimes you got doubts, and then, let's hit this on the other side, I think, Tyler, because I think we can take this a lot of different ways. And I also think I think we've learned a little bit more in the last week about how much responsibility Spencer Rattler will have within this offense as well.
Absolutely, and we'll hear more from Loggains and the other coordinators as well. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
Guys, we were in Irmo yesterday, hanging out at Firehouse Subs. Let me tell y'all, I had a New York steamer. I had a pepperoni pizza meatball sub. I had a brisket sub. I had a turkey bacon ranch. I was having a little bit of everything. I actually don't suggest that you eat all those at once, but it was a good time, so I don't regret a thing. If you are ready for your lunch, which looking at the time right now, you probably are, get the Firehouse Subs app or go to firehousesubs.com. Hit that rapid rescue and get yourself this pepperoni pizza meatball sub on the app for $6. Where else are you going to get a great filling lunch that tastes amazing for just $6 in 2023? Firehouse Subs app, firehousesubs.com. Absolutely the best place to get your lunch and the most efficient way to do it. As always, shout out to our friends at Firehouse Subs.
It's time for kickoff, and the Believe podcast will get you ready for the new season.
How do you live through this as a Detroit sports fan?
Believe has podcasts covering all 32 professional teams and many of your favorite college teams, too.
You solidified your defense. You got better.
Sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone.
If you don't do those things, then you're not even trying your hardest to win at football, and I don't know what we're doing.
There was a lot of great players on those teams that I was fortunate to be part of.
Search BLEAV podcasts wherever you listen.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, here on 107.5 The Game. Just 9 days away from kickoff. I want to remind y'all that the Carolina Honda Powerhouse football ticket giveaway is back. Keep it locked right here on The Game each and every week for your opportunity to win a pair of tickets to upcoming Gamecock home football games. All sponsored by Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your source for Honda ATVs, motorcycles, scooters, and side-by-sides. Give them a visit off exit 70 off of I-20 or visit carolinahonda.com. Continue our conversation about Dow Loggains, who spoke on quite a few things yesterday, was very, very fired up in talking about Spencer Rattler and everything that he's been doing through camp so far over these past couple weeks. And it's a bit of a long cut here. May not play the entire thing, but I want to let you listen to a little bit of what Loggains had to say about Spencer and the freedom that he's had in this offense so far.
I think it's a bit, it's all the player. And if you ask this in the spring ball, I'm sure Clayton, the defensive staff, and our defensive players would tell you it feels like there's a lot more going on with him. Like he's a lot more involved that way, and it's because we wanted to introduce some concepts in spring ball and figure out what he likes. And you got to get reps. You can't, as a young player, he does have advantages. He's played for three different offensive systems. That is that's advantageous to your learning football. It's not always advantageous to having success on the field, but your football mind has grown every time you play in a new system. Obviously, consistency helps more than anything to produce on the field at a high level. But all those experiences, so he was able to see what we do on paper and on the board, and then go out and execute a little bit, and then you kind of start to figure out, okay, hey, what about if you see this, get to that, or if you see that, get to this, and you got to figure out, in the classroom is one thing, like I can get us in the right play in the classroom, but now all of a sudden bullets are flying, and it's live, and you got a pass rush, and they're disguising, like, can you check plays there? And for right now, he's doing a lot. He's doing an awful lot of line of scrimmage, and it's because he's earned that right. And we fill his toolbox. And the more he can do, and the more he can handle, the more we'll give him. But the one line that we always talk about in the QB room with that, to whom much is given, much is required.
And again, that's a little bit of an insight into Dow Loggains' thoughts on Spencer Rattler. And it goes on a little bit longer. We just want to play that quick little cut there. And, like I said, very fired up about it, and seems to be excited about what's going to happen in 9 days.
So I talked about this on our podcast yesterday, and you know how it is. This time of year, you're gathering information. You're hearing different things, and then some of it gets confirmed publicly, some of it doesn't. And I think when this whole thing started, this whole partnership between, this is what they've called it, between Dow Loggains and Spencer Rattler, it was more, I think, of an off-season thing. Hey, this is what we're going to be on offense, and we're going to build that around what Spencer likes. And it's going to kind of be a collaborative effort. Here's what Spencer did well last year. Here's what Spencer wants to bring from Oklahoma. Obviously, Shane Beamer has a say in this. The entire staff has a say in this. And it was, to me, kind of like as they build the building blocks of this offense, it's going to be collaborative. And so you gave Spencer all this power, and you empowered him to – they talked about the paintbrush, right? Like, I want you to kind of paint the picture. I think what we're finding out now, and I think he used the words freedom at the line of scrimmage and the great responsibility that he is putting on a quarterback, and how it compares really favorably, if not more so, as far as his freedom at the line to some guys in the NFL that Loggains has coached. So I think what we are learning now is that freedom and responsibility and ability to effectively run your own offense as Spencer Rattler, it is carried over now into the season, into a play-to-play basis, into a, hey, I see this box, I see this picture up front, and I have it in my toolbox, which is, you notice Luke Doty used that word, that whenever you start hearing phrases and words over and over, that means it's part of the vernacular of that staff. I think Luke Doty said Spencer Rattler's toolbox. Dow Loggains said his toolbox. They have put it in his toolbox to be able to have freedom at the line of scrimmage and go kind of do what he wants. So I think this thing has expanded in terms of responsibility on Spencer Rattler beyond even what we were being told it was going to be, 8 months ago when this whole thing first started.
That takes so much pressure off of your team. When you have a quarterback that can do that, it takes pressure off your offensive coordinator to make a perfect call against a look. It takes pressure off the other 10 guys on the field because maybe you have a play called that isn't the best one to start off with. You're always gambling when you call a play. Say, this is what we think we're going to get. And obviously you're doing it sometimes against teams like a Georgia, who are really, really good, talented, fast, strong on defense. And so get up to the line, whether you get what you were kind of banking on or not, when you got a quarterback, say you got a run called, and maybe in the past you run the football and you get stuffed. Well, when you got a quarterback that can call change the play, now you're putting your teammates in a better position, and you're taking the pressure off of your offensive coordinator, and you're actually putting pressure on the defense. And I think it's notable. Loggains is continuing to talk about this because they have obviously liked what they have seen in the preseason with Spencer Rattler. I mean, we've heard they've been throwing a lot of different looks at him defensively to see how he responds, and it seems he's really been passing those tests. Now, he'll play defenses this year that are better than probably what South Carolina is going to put on the field even, but he's doing this against the ones in practice, and so it wouldn't be a storyline. Loggains wouldn't be talking about it. They would have actually, taken that away from Spencer. It would have just been a concept in their mind that never saw the light of day. But they've wanted to do this, and the fact that he's responded so positively means they've continued it. And I think that's a huge advantage.
We'll hear plenty more from the coordinators as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on here on The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Want to take a minute to tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media and what they can do for you at your home. It is still your home, but Integrated Media, they can make it a little bit smarter or a lot smarter. Complete home theater solutions, complete audio-video solutions, security cameras, TV installations, and full smart home systems. You can bring your house into the modern age by choosing Integrated Media and utilizing your smartphone. You can control lighting, thermostat, sound systems, TVs, security cameras, alarm systems. Impress your guests with preset lighting themes. If it's too hot or cold, just adjust your thermostat with the touch of a button. I've said it before, something as simple as mounting a TV, something as complex as a complete smart home system. Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram and Facebook for inspiration photos. Get more on their website, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a call, 803-948-8327. That's Michael and Nathan at Integrated Media.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you, continuing our conversation in regards to what we heard from Loggains yesterday. And I only played about half of that cut a few minutes ago about him talking about Spencer Rattler and the freedom that he has within this offense. And I can't remember if it was in what we played a moment ago or if it was when I played it earlier, the full clip with Colin. But it's worth noting, Spencer Rattler's been in the college football game since 2019. He's been in 3 different systems under Lincoln Riley, then Marcus Satterfield, and now Loggains. The knowledge that he has for so many aspects of offense in college football can't be understated, and that plays into a lot of why he has so much freedom to do what he's doing within the Loggains system.
I do wonder how much will this potentially help Rattler when it comes time to start having all the NFL draft dissections where the guys are sort of breaking down everything you do, everything you can't do, everything you do well, everything you do poorly, and the fact that if everything goes well, what Rattler will be able to point to, and hey, I did this at the line of scrimmage. This is why I've played in these 3 systems. We all know that the ultimate goal here for Spencer Rattler is to go play in the NFL. And Loggains has talked about that. Spencer's talked about that. And so to me, I think you are, let's go back to that word, his toolbox. I think you're adding a lot to his toolbox in terms of things he'll be able to point to with NFL teams. I also, guys, really, really liked what we heard from Clayton White talking about his defense going up against Spencer Rattler. He said he hasn't missed throws, which, that's a big part. Just make the layups, too. Don't miss the, quote, easy throws. And he was going as far as talking about how his defensive backs, if they're a step behind or if they get their eyes out of place, they're in a position where Rattler's just beating them. And to me, those things, Chris, are signs of elite quarterback play as opposed to just good quarterback play.
Real quick, let's let you hear the full comment of what Clayton White did have to say about Spencer yesterday.
It's been fun. It's been challenging. He's definitely made us all better as a football coach. There was at one point there was a challenge like who's going to get an interception from Spence, and then we finally got a couple, but it took us a good while during training camp. But he's I will say, one, I think he's an unbelievable dude. Like a rap about it. There was a theory about him when he first got here, and then it's completely wrong. He's a humble guy. He's a team guy. He's fun. Me and him don't talk junk, but we talk to each other about things and looks, and it's been fun. I think that a lot of people, a lot of kids can learn from him in regards of starting over, getting a brand new start. I mean, you guys have read the press. I mean, lights out is like really what it's been. Like, he don't miss throws, and it's been good, man. So it's been fun. Like, I know if our DBs, if you're a step behind and you're a step late, I mean, if you see the quarterback, I always say if you're watching the quarterback, you're gonna see the completion. So, I mean, it's been fun. It's been impressive. So I'm excited to watch them get cut loose.
Again, another ringing endorsement there from defensive coordinator Clayton White, who is preparing to go up against him every single day at this point in time because it's only South Carolina versus South Carolina. And, again, he is a coach within this program, and he's not going to bash Spencer by any means, but you like what you heard from him.
Yeah, I mean, he went above and beyond with what he said there. And you hear that to a man. I mean, anybody you talk to, any public comments, they kind of have gone above and beyond. And then just kind of what you hear privately, it all lines up with him having a really good preseason. And you feel really good about that translating, to what you see on the field this year. I actually wrote about this a little bit yesterday in just some what ifs, right? Because I think it's been interesting to see the treatment of Spencer. And it's not like it's been bad. It's not like it's been everybody. But just some of the narratives out there around him that persist when you compare it to somebody like Joe Milton at Tennessee. I know Joe Milton can throw the ball 100 yards. I actually think Joe Milton will have a really good year. He's playing in an offense that's extremely quarterback-friendly. He's very talented. But he has not won/lost the starting quarterback job at two different schools. Some people are still hung up on Spencer Rattler being on Netflix when he was in high school and losing the starting job to Caleb Williams, who, by the way, won the Heisman. So it's not like that's some shameful act. You got to remember that Spencer Rattler's got a lot of talent. And 2020 season at Oklahoma, over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns and just 7 picks. And that, I think, is something that you really want to – you want to see the touchdowns from last season creep up. You want to see the turnovers from last year creep down. Shane Beamer's talked about this a ton. Guys, I was looking before, and this is not just Spencer. This is the entire team. South Carolina's 4 losses last year. They had 11. They lost the turnover margin 11-1 in those 4 losses. And they didn't run the ball at all in any of them. The Georgia game, they actually had 92 rushing yards. The other ones, they had 44 was their highest rushing total. So, again, a lot of that is not Spencer, but he's a huge part of that, and he'll actually be a big part of maybe sometimes he gets them into a run play, and that's going to benefit this offense too.
Yeah, and just going back to what you were saying about his maturity, and Clayton White touched on it there, his college experience up to this point, going from being a highly touted recruit to being a potential Heisman candidate at Oklahoma to getting benched, to having to transfer, and then not having the season he wanted a year ago. We all thought he was going to come in, be a one and done, and be in the NFL by the time 2023 rolled around. That obviously didn't end up happening. So all those things kind of mold and create this new mature Spencer Rattler that's going into what is his final year of college football this year.
Yeah, and I think, guys, we're about to see the offense that we thought we were going to see 1 year ago. And at the time, like, I remember us having the conversations and saying, look, you bring in 7, you bring in this guy, you didn't bring him in to hand the football off. And as the year went on, the offense kind of was what it needed to be at each given time. There was a stretch where they said, look, we got to just hand the ball to Marshawn Lloyd, get him involved, and that was the best way to win games. As the season progressed, we heard what it was like, or we saw what it's like when Rattler was sort of turned loose, and that obviously was fantastic for South Carolina. When you look at what they have on offense right now, you look at the question marks on the offensive line, you got some guys who are inexperienced in the running back room or are inexperienced at that position in the running back room. To me, all this is going to be based around 7 and how he plays. And I do think if you have a quarterback who is dialed in enough, who can get the ball out quick enough, who is making decisive decisions, then that can take a good bit of pressure off of that offensive line in pass pro. I tend to think run blocking, yeah, you can call good plays, you can get in good plays against good fronts, but ultimately you got to find a way to block the guy up front. And whereas pass pro, obviously there's a baseline size and athleticism and technique that has to be present in order to have some success. But if you can get the ball out quick, and if you have such an innate sort of just natural feel for where the ball should go, then you can take a little bit of that pressure off of a spot that frankly still has question marks. So that's why I think what you're hearing from Rattler is really, really important for South Carolina based on the context of where they are as an offense from a personnel standpoint as well.
Only 9 more days, and we'll finally get to see what this offense looks like.
Double digits. I'm ready for it. There was some conversation, by the way, yesterday on the first play call.
I loved that conversation.
I loved it.
Do you want to hear it?
Do we have we've got that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I have everything, guys.
Tyler has a library, like the Pete Limbo library, but instead of trick plays, it's
Pete Limbo library of trick plays.
Instead of that, it's just audio.
Here's what Loggains had to say about the first play of this new offense.
I don't know. Who says we haven't picked it? We'll have you. We'll get to that. We'll know. I mean, there's been. It happens a lot of different ways. Spencer, the staff, Coach Beamer, everyone will be involved in it. The first one, and the good thing is it won't be the first time I've ever done it, and it won't be the first time that Spencer's ever run a first play. So we've got plenty of time. And the process is like you go through the week and you say, hey, what looks good? Like, what do we feel comfortable with? Do you run the ball to, hey, let the offensive line just tee off and get all the nerves out of it? Do you let Spencer get an easy completion? Just so, hey, he settles down, gets a completion. They're going to be amped up. It's going to be a huge crowd. You throw a screen. Like, there's so many different things that happen, like, go into this discussion of a first play. But, like, right now, the only thing, to be completely honest, I'm worried about is getting in with the offensive staff after this meeting, correcting the practice tape today, and, getting ready for tomorrow's practice, not the first play in North Carolina.
So, to put a bow on it, we still don't know any more than before the question was asked.
That's fun to think about.
You think they've picked it?
I don't think so.
I think they'll have it picked out
Tyler thinks
by
they
this
have,
time
I
next
think.
week, but
Well,
I think
said
9
we'll
days
get
out.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could be just messing with
It
us.
could be, yeah. Well, because he said at the beginning, he was like, who says we haven't? I don't think they've picked it.
Well, they could pick it right now, and Spencer might walk up there and look at the middle linebacker and change the thing.
That's
so
the beauty of it.
There are options on the table.
Past 2 seasons, this has nothing to do with it other than Shane Beamer was the head coach. It was a pass.
Really, was it?
Mm-hmm. About 2 years.
So we'll find out in 9 days.
I've always wanted a new offensive coordinator to go double reverse pass, flea flicker.
Kentucky did.
Off the very first play. Like, hey, we're here. We're playing this
Hey.
thing like a PlayStation.
The possibilities are endless. We'll certainly dive into more of the coordinator audio tomorrow. We're broadcasting live from Charwood Golf Club for our annual Summer Golf Classic. Up next, though, need to revisit the Daniel Hill situation because we did not get any commitment at all from him yesterday. That's coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on the Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5, The Game.
Let me tell you about something else you should also revisit. Your insurance coverage. Need to make sure that you have great coverage, name brand coverage that you can trust, and also that you're paying the best possible rate. A lot of ways you can do that. With Amy Mason Cup State Farm, if you just give her a call, she can help you switch and save with State Farm. A couple different ways she can help you. Number one, she can bundle a lot of your different policies. So if you have home, auto, business, boat, life insurance, any policies that she can bundle together, she can do that. Her team can give you a personalized quote on what it's going to cost you, bundle those, save them. She can also tell you about the Drive Safe and Save app, interactive maps, driving tips. Those can help you save up to 30% on your vehicle insurance bill. AmyMasonCup.com, 803-772-5554. Her office is 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4 in Columbia. That's AmyMasonCup.com, 803-772-5554. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5, The Game.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, West, and Chris with you for a few more minutes. We're jumping into the halftime show with myself, Jay, and Terry. We were talking about it all week. We were supposed to have a commitment from Daniel Hill yesterday afternoon, and then, that didn't happen. The prevailing thought was that South Carolina was the overwhelming favorite to land the 4-star running back out of Mississippi. And
they are.
Now, what's next, guys?
Some more visits, I think. Maybe a fall decision. The finish line has been – that's the thing about recruiting. Sometimes the finish line gets moved. It would be like running a 5K.
Yeah, you think.
And it's like you can literally see the finish line. And then right before you get to the end of the 5K, they're like, actually, this is going to be a 10K.
This is just a water checkpoint.
Yes.
It's 5 miles down the road.
Two ways to look at it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say this is a great thing by any means because, he was gonna pick South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say it for what it is. He was gonna pick South Carolina. So with that in mind, obviously it's not a great thing. Now, does this mean that he is now leaning to another school? That is not the case, from what I've been told, from what we've heard. Now, Alabama's still in it. Obviously, he has not made a final decision at this point. So there's a couple ways to look at it. From what I understand, staff has kind of taken the approach of they were not going to be stopping recruiting him even with the commitment yesterday. So it doesn't really change a whole lot as far as the amount of effort or energy they're going to have to put into this. But, I mean, let's be honest, Chris, wouldn't you rather pull up the commit list online and see 4-star running back Daniel Hill, Gamecock, on there with the logo beside his name as opposed to some percentages by his name?
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to break up if you're already married, presumably, in a commitment, in a recruiting instance. And so you would have loved to get him committed for so many reasons. But you're right. Like, had he committed yesterday, it's not like Nick Saban and Robert Gillespie and all those guys would have just logged on to Gamecock Central like I'm sure they do every day. So, Daniel Hill committed South Carolina. Oh, awesome. We're good. Good luck, Daniel. We'll talk to you and when we see you.
Go ahead and delete his number.
Yeah, like it would not have been over. And we know, I mean, this is a question we've got too, so just to clear the air, like, has Bama pushed for him? Absolutely. Like, they do not have a running back committed in this class. They've pushed extremely hard for Daniel Hill. But
they've
that
been
is a component.
pushing.
They've been pushing.
This is not a last-minute push where that's what made
Put
him
it over the top.
Yeah.
It's been a consistent push. And so that's still a component here too. But I don't think anything like materially has changed. Like, there's no Daniel's not like, I don't like South Carolina anymore. Bama didn't make some big last-minute push. Like, things have kind of stayed even keel. And so you still like where South Carolina is, but you are going to have to weather this one for a while.
Two additional points. First of all, the other negative for South Carolina for this, Chris, is that Alabama actually, and it speaks to how much they have pushed for him and how much they liked him as a prospect. There are a couple of other running backs. See, they're going to fill their needs. They're Alabama.
Sure.
There are a couple of other running backs that they have slow played, that have kind of been on the back burner with them waiting to see what would happen with Daniel Hill. So, yes, South Carolina would have had to keep recruiting him anyway, but if you get him on the commit list and Bama, if they felt like, he's pretty solid to South Carolina, which I think he would have been really solid to South Carolina, then that would have forced Alabama to start moving on to those next guys. And maybe they just kind of, this guy wants to come. We feel this need. Maybe we still talk to Daniel Hill if he wants to talk, but it's not quite as – they would have had to put their energy elsewhere. So I think that's the additional advantage you would have had to getting him on your commit list. And so that's a factor too. Also, in today's age, anytime there's a last-minute change or a guy moves something, you just see people on Twitter, you see people on our message boards, this is NIL. It's a last-minute NIL push. They dropped the bag. And I see stuff on there about, this mama must not have wanted completely fabricated, like not true whatsoever.
Are you telling me people are overreacting to something on the internet?
Well, no, it's not just, you can react however you want. That's fine. But let's not just make up the reasons. This is by every indication.
Yeah.
This is not an NIL related situation at all. This is not like that. Every kid to an extent these days is going to factor in NIL, and they absolutely should to an extent. But this is not, that's never been, in my opinion, a huge part of Daniel Hill's decision. And this is 100% by every indication, not, the NIL picture has changed, so that's changed his recruitment. So I think it is worth mentioning that and getting that out there just to sort of snuff that out.
And compare that to a few other guys just off the top of my head that have ultimately gone elsewhere. I mean, Daniel Hill has not picked another school. Some people write down, he's gone. That's a miss. No, not a miss. I mean, think about Keelan Adams. Think about Jonathan Paylor. Think about Jalewis Solomon. There were, from what we heard, some NIL components there. And you contrast that to Daniel Hill, and you just don't really hear anything there. So Bama can take their time. Remember, they signed 2 of the top 4 running backs in the country last year.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty good class. And that has weighed in, I think, to Daniel Hill's decision-making process.
He knows that.
Too. Yeah, he knows. He's been pointed out to him. He knows. And so, Bama, they're still pushing for Nate Frazier, who's already committed to Georgia. Some other guys committed to other programs. Daniel Hill's kind of they're probably their one uncommitted guy that they're still going after.
Do you buy into the Tennessee chatter? Tennessee being involved, Tennessee being a factor.
If he ends up visiting there again, maybe. Tennessee has one back in Peyton Lewis committed, who was at one time a South Carolina target. And then they were going for Braylon Russell from Arkansas and had a great shot, but he ended up staying in state, recommitting to Arkansas. And so they are still looking for a second back. So maybe, I think certainly it's much more Bama and certainly much more South Carolina.
Absolutely. We'll certainly keep our eye on Daniel Hill, and whenever that commitment hopefully comes down the road. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll be live out at Charwood Golf Club all day tomorrow. Halftime show with Jay, Terry, and myself coming up next right here on The Game.
Moms are amazing at tracking down hard-to-find items. Library books, socks, you name it. But sometimes help is welcomed. Care.com makes it easy to find babysitters near you. Sitters with the experience and skills your family needs, like after-school pickup and homework help. You just post a job for qualified sitters to apply. And since all Care.com caregivers are background checked, you can feel confident about interviewing and hiring. To get the child care help you need, sign up now at Care.com.